Okay, today we're solving the problem, how do I play legato faster? Or basically, I can't play legato faster. Legato is a really challenging left-hand technique, and it actually requires quite a bit from the right hand, even though the right hand only hits the string once just to activate it. It takes, really what we're aiming for is pretty close to equal control in each of the fingers. And then we gotta deal with the muting concept. So right now I've got a very high gain channel on. I'm playing on the bridge pickup, and that's because it creates the most sensitive atmosphere for legato playing, which gets the notes to sound out well. The other thing that is usually of great advantage as you do this is having lower tension on the strings. So having lighter strings, or if you have bigger strings, even, you know, just for a little bit, tuning them down a little bit, just take the tension off a little bit. And so that way we get used to getting the sounds that come out with the left hand. The very first thing I would look at if you're having, well, let's say, what we want to train when we're actually going to start doing this is we want to train that lightness in the hand, and we want to train hammer-ons, and we want to train pull-offs separately, because they are actually very different techniques in that sense, okay? So I would start with something like, start on the first string because there's no string underneath it. Then you could take these on to the second string, and then that's the same for all the rest of the strings. I would recommend doing them on all the strings, but you really want to just sort of get it down on the first string first, and then sort of understand how far away your fingers get, usually on the pull-offs. But let's start with the hammer-ons. So 1 and 2, easiest combination. So okay, a couple of those, 1 and 3. Okay, 1 and 4. Okay, then 2 and 3, and I'm actually going to keep 1 on at the time, but I can keep it on kind of lightly. Two and 4. Three and 4. All right, that covers them pretty good. And then you could even do, you know, a bit of gap in between if you want as well, you know. But we'll just stick with 2. All right, let's go to the pull-off technique now, right? Actually, let's get back to the hammer-on. Let's talk about some basic application. One of the first ways you can start to train this and develop the lightness in the hand, because that's what's really required, is using the open string. So forget scales or whatever, just do pure technique for a little while, and then apply whatever scale passage you want. But something like if I'm doing 1 and 2, open, and then 1 and 2. So I'm always picking on the open. 1 and 3. All right, whatever flavor you want with the notes. 1 and 4, a little diminished sound. Right, you get the idea. So you can do that sort of up and down the neck, you know, with metronome, whatever sort of suits the preference, right? But I always say aim towards the weakness, like just wrestle with the weakness, because that's what makes you better. So let's actually start with pull-offs. They're more challenging. Pull-offs are more challenging because they require you to hold the string still with the lower finger, such as finger 1 or finger 2. Generally, sometimes even finger 3, but that's only the final one. So I would do the exercises in reverse order. 2, 1. Okay, and then 3, 1. 4, 1. And it's important to notice, are you going like this to do it? Are we doing any motion from back here? Or are we actually using the smaller muscle just within the hand or stuff? Not that one's necessarily better than the other, but one is certainly going to be less tense than the other. Notice I didn't say more comfortable, I said less tense. So one's going to be less tense than the other. You know, 3, 2. Oh, the non-adjacent, I forgot, to 4, 2. There we go. And 4, 3. right? That covered it. Now, if I'm doing something where I'm like open, like that, if I want... This is actually a little challenging. I actually do a little move myself where I actually put the finger just slightly, unlike if I'm just fretting the note, I'll be sort of really on top of it. But for this kind of thing, I'll be just underneath it. And it's enough where I'll be able to get the note out, but I'm also like pushing it up a little bit from the bottom. Because what you have to do is you hit the open, and then you're basically doing a hammer-on from nowhere. No, let's do it from the top up. So like that, and you're getting the pick to engage with the finger. But notice that the left hand is putting the fingers on at the same time. That's the key. You can't really put them on separately if you want the speed, because the previous note will have to be down already. So not only do we have to put it down at the same time, but then we have to get this, you want to start a little slow, especially on this, to feel what it's like when only one finger moves and the other finger stays. One finger moves, the other finger stays. You know, if I'm doing... The second finger moves, the first finger stays. So that's what makes the pull off a bit challenging. Then, if I go back to sort of the example that I did, right? A little bit more of an advanced application of it. Did a chromatic scale to start, which involves all 4 fingers. And you'll notice that as I go through that chromatic scale pattern, the only thing we're hearing is the note I'm playing. You know, these notes, muted. Not totally muted, but I'm also not activating it, just being very careful. And then the lower strings, all palm muted, because the right hand is resting, you know, not floating. Right? And then when I'm going back like that, and especially when I want to pick up the speed, I really think about it more as like this, like I'm actually coming off with the index finger, almost like I'm supinating a little bit extra. I'm rotating in towards the pinky a little extra, and then the index finger sort of comes off the guitar a little bit more, like that kind of position. Because a lot of times we'll be in a pronated position and we'll be peeling the fingers off, and then it's difficult to get them back on, and it's really just overall tense. So in order to reduce that tension, I'm okay with this sort of this little bit of extra supination to assist that. But chromatic stuff, all 4 fingers, probably the most versatile, because it gets you to use all 4 fingers, but they're adjacent, which means that they're the most dependent motions on each other. When you have non-adjacent fingers, just like when we first start playing, you know, learning to play like 1-3 was like my first pair of fingers I could play fast. Not even 1-2, because they were adjacent. You know, 1-3 was what I developed first, and then 1-4 is what I actually developed next. You know, that was actually the order at which I started to get ability, right? So as you train these things, you want to just look for the lightness and look for the sense of touch. Now, let's talk just briefly about the right hand's role. Basically, you use your ears. So if I'm playing like this, hear that? I went for the note, right? Didn't even get the note, but hear this? All these strings here, I gotta shut them up. So that's all done with the right hand just being very precise in the exact spot you want. And then, like if I'm doing the string skipping thing like I did before, my right hand makes an adjustment, like when I go up to the B string to cover and just sort of press a little bit hard on the strings to get that muting in. So we'll wrap it up there. If you want my help designing any bit of your progress in a structured, formal manner, and you want that progress now, please feel free to send me a message.